Hello everyone. Thank you for watching IndiaMoney.com. My name is Vivek Bhaskar, and on this edition of IndiaMoney.com, I will be talking to you about tax planning. On a brief introduction to tax planning, we need to talk about how exactly we could plan our tax filing in the coming fiscal year. Before that, we need to know that there are two types of taxes which is paid towards the government revenue. One of them is a direct tax, and the other one is an indirect tax. Now, as an individual, all of us fall in the direct tax category because direct tax is nothing but the tax imposed by the government directly on the entity. It could be an individual or it could be a business firm. Now, apart from this, there's something called as indirect tax. So, what exactly is indirect tax? Indirect tax is nothing but tax which is a small fee or a charge which is added on to the cost of goods, services, or transactions that exist in the market. Now, unlike direct taxes, indirect taxes are imposed not on the producer but on the consumer. So that is a main difference. And since this is about tax planning, and it's the individuals or the companies that need to do tax planning so that they could enjoy various tax benefit schemes introduced by the government. So we need to talk about tax planning, and also we need to identify the concepts of tax evasion as well as tax avoidance, because we need to differentiate all the three. Only then we could do a proper tax planning procedure. So what exactly is tax planning and how is it different from tax avoidance and tax evasion? Well, to make it very simple, tax planning is nothing but making use of all the government tax benefit schemes and thereby reducing our liability towards contribution towards the state revenue. So how do we do it? Yes, by staying within the legal framework. There's absolutely no breaking the law. There's absolutely no bending the law as well. We stay within the legal framework. We use all the tax benefit schemes given to us by the government, and yet we end up paying taxes, a minimal tax. This is nothing but tax planning. Now, how is it different from tax avoidance? Well, tax avoidance is more of a brilliant scheme where you actually use the loopholes. I repeat this word. We use the loopholes present in the existing tax judicial system, the legal system, and then we exploit them further to ensure that we reduce the taxes which are paid towards the government. So that is a difference between tax planning as well as tax avoidance. Now, there's something called as tax evasion as well. Now, this is a criminal activity. It can be considered as a fraudulent activity where you actually ensure that you don't pay taxes at all, or maybe you actually evade taxes or you do not pay taxes. You reduce your tax liability by breaking the laws, by not just bending the law, by breaking the laws, which would result in penalties and other serious actions. So the main difference between the three: tax planning is nothing but reducing the tax liability reducing the tax liability by maintaining the laws. Tax avoidance is nothing but uh, reducing the tax liability by bending the law, and tax evasion is nothing but reducing the tax liability by breaking the law. So if that's the case, we need to ensure that all of us need to stick to tax planning, at the same time maintain efficient ways of tax planning. So which are the efficient ways of tax planning? What are the different tax benefits provided to us by the government? Let's talk about those in a nutshell. We have various schemes, various methods. Some of the benefits are tax exemptions, tax reductions, tax deductions. We have tax reliefs. We also have tax rebate system. So to talk about all these things, we need to ask questions to ourselves. Did you all know that there are tax relief measures given to business firms, such as their costs for transportation or costs which are necessary towards a smooth running of the firms can be considered for tax relief? This is nothing but tax relief. If you are a businessman, if you are an individual entrepreneur, maybe you're an artist. So if you are traveling towards various locations to perform your art, well, those travel expenses can be reduced from your annual income while taxing. Well, this is something new. And also, did you know that there is something called a tax rebate system where your annual income is placed in various tax slabs. And very depending on your tax slabs, wherever you fall in, you will be isolated out and you have to pay minimum tax, or you have minimum tax liability if you belong to the bottom tax slab compared to higher tax slabs. In other words, higher your income, higher your profit, higher the tax liability, lower your income, lower your profit, lower your tax liability. Also, did you know that there are economic free zones established by the government where you could go start a business there and you could end up paying no taxes at all in some scenarios? So, if you are a businessman who are establishing firms across the country, look out for these special economic firms where you could reduce your tax liability towards the government. And also, there's something called as tax deductions. Did you know if you could invest in insurances, fixed deposits, and other necessary schemes that are necessary for your family survival? Well, government has introduced tax deductions to such investments as well. So with all this information, you could plan your tax paying, your tax liability in such a way that your tax liability is minimal, at the same time it is legal. So using different schemes, we ensure that we pay lesser taxes and we stay within the law. This is nothing but tax planning. So a quick trivia of questions which we asked. Let's brush up that once again. How is the tax planning different from tax avoidance and tax evasion? This is very important because we need to stick to the tax planning system and not exactly tax evasion. Now, did you know that there are various loopholes present inside our judicial system which would ensure lesser tax liability, which would give us lesser tax liability? At the same time, government has to work on such loopholes to ensure that these are not repeated as well. So, with various tax beneficial options available, with various tax loopholes available as well, we could reduce our tax liability towards our government. So this is tax planning in a nutshell. But on the next edition, we're going to talk about in detail about a lot of other questions, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions to ask me as well. Please do write to me. That's Vivek Bhaskar. It's indiamoney.com. So till we meet next time with another topic of discussion. Till we meet next time, thank you for watching indiamoney.com. Have a nice day.